Yeah. So we're gonna give some people some time to join on in as we start. Just the same announcements we usually give. If you have questions, post them in the chat. I'm gonna be monitoring the chat as best as I can um, during our conversation. The topic of today, and let me just put that up here um, so we could see it. Let's see. It's actually usually shows right here. Save it.
I hope everybody's enjoying this beautiful spring weather. I know I am.
Is yeah, gardening like a pro. It's time to enjoy the spring weather. You're right. And who best to share how to garden tips, gardening tips, than someone who plants seeds for a living. All right.
Yeah.
So if you guys remember, we've had Farmer D in the past talking about his black garlic, good stuff. He's going to give another opportunity for you guys to purchase this product and talk about that. But the topic of the day is gardening. So if you have questions about gardening, if you never started a garden before, I'm sure you have a lot of questions. If you're starting a little garden but you're kind of stuck, this is a place to ask questions. So, but we're going to share the basics and really get you guys headed in the right direction. Another thing too, if you are watching this not live, but this is going to be pre-recorded. This is going to be recorded and posted online. You could still interact, but I may not see your questions. Okay, but so anyone who's watching live, you have an advantage because you got a farmer right here who can answer questions about gardening. So I hope you guys interact. Where are you guys watching from? Talk to me. I always like to hear from my regulars. Just say a greeting so I could greet you back. All right. But Farmer D, man, I know you don't want to call yourself a professional when it comes.
I call myself a coach. Anybody who says they know everything about farming, they don't really know everything about farming because we're all learning.
Yeah,
It's an ongoing process.
That's humble.
Yeah, and the more mistakes we make, the more we learn. So
exactly,
I've made my fair share. So that's how we grow and learn from each other. But first, Lewis, I want to thank those who tuned in last time. It was well received, and I want to thank everybody for reaching out to me, even during the podcast and even after the podcast. I've heard from people from all over the United States, which I was really surprised. I had someone contact me from as far as Hawaii. So, and they're 7 hours, 7 hours behind us. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we'll try to do the best we can to answer your questions and give you some helpful tips. But I just wanted to thank everybody for the support. And also, I'd like to contact Lewis and give us some ideas on topics for the next podcast.
Yes.
I want this to be your podcast, not my podcast. So give us some tips or some topics that you'd like for us to try to talk about next time around.
Yeah, we always like to. Obviously, you're a wealth of knowledge, man. So I like to have people on that are passionate and knowledgeable. You got both, man. So I just thank you for sharing your time. So Joan, thanks for greeting us from Boston. We got Boy on the Boy 2.0. All right, so you guys go ahead and share a greeting with us. Let us know we're not alone. But yeah, can you tell us, man? Obviously, we got to start from the beginning when you're starting a garden. I know there's a lot of places where people start off wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've made mistakes, and we want to help people not to make those same mistakes.
I made them before, and I guarantee I'll make them some more.
So I'm guessing we start with the groundwork, right? How do we start when we're starting a garden from scratch? It depends on the situation. Yeah,
sure. Well, I guess the first thing we have the viewers need to find out what type of gardener they want to be. Okay. And it depends on where they live. If you live in townhouses or apartments or condominiums, or you live in a single family home, or you have acreage, obviously, and that would determine your style of gardening. If you live in a townhouse or you live in an apartment or condominium, then obviously you're not going to be planting in the ground. You're going to be planting in containers or pots, but if you live in single family homes, you might be doing raised beds or in a smaller area. But you could also, they have these growing towers for those of you who don't have places to grow outside. And the towers that have now are basic state of the art. You can grow your herbs, you can grow small vegetables in these towers, and it's all inclusive. You know, it has the watering system, and they even have some of them where you can actually do your own composting within the tower to help feed the plants that you're actually growing in the tower. So, you know, I advise the growers, the viewers to go to, you know, Google and just Google inside towers, and you would see the host of different styles that they have.
So, like, I know nothing about gardening, man. That's why I really love this topic. Gardening towers. I'm trying to Google it now to see what it looks like, and look when I Google it right now, I do see what you're talking about. I've seen. Is it like a pole system?
Right, it's a system, right? It's like it's a tower, so it's some of them are plastic, and you can build them, and you have a little pocket where you can put some herbs in, and you can put another pocket. You put some dirt and herbs, and or tomatoes, or you know, different. Obviously, you can don't be growing watermelon or anything large, but for based on your space that you have or available, then that's basically your best option.
So gardening towers, and you don't have any preference of type of gardening tower. Anywhere you could find that selling at Amazon would be good enough.
Right, because again, they range from $30 up to $500 or $600. So it all depends on you have to pick your poison.
Okay. And I'm sure there's probably some people who, you know, they don't live in an apartment. They just might decide they want to use it anyway, right, inside their house. I guess.
Well, yeah, or in the wintertime, right? You know, because obviously you can't grow stuff outside in the wintertime. You can use that as a alternative, or you can grow your microgreens in there, something on a very small scale. You know, but if you live in a townhouse, you could do some, some pots on your deck. It's an option. Or if you live in the townhouse, you can do some stuff outside in your flower bed. You can plant a tomato plant or pepper plant or something like that. You know, and I've actually seen people that do, you know, squash plants outside too, you know, right in front of the house. So any place you could put a bush or, you know, a small shrubbery, you could grow some vegetables.
Yeah. Any other gardening styles that we got to consider? Because like you said, you know, first question is what kind of style you want.
Right. First, what do you have available to you? Where your space to garden? And then once you determine that, you have to decide what type of soil you have. Okay. So if you live in the country, you could have a soil that is real clay, a lot of clay, or you could have a soil that's really sandy, or a soil that could be really, really wet. So depending on your soil would be depending on the soil amendments that you would actually put into the soil, you know, and not all soils are the same. And you might have a clay soil, and I might have a clay soil, but the nutrients in that are different than yours and mine. So what I suggest to people is to get a soil test. You contact your local college and get a soil test. You know, you might need more organic material. You might need more phosphorus. You could need more nitrogen, and it all depends. And once you get that soil test back, it'll tell you exactly your soil amendments that you need to input into your soil. That's the best way.
So you said local, like university will be a good start?
Yeah, university. Well, here in Virginia, you know, we have Virginia Tech, but, you know, major university, not your community colleges, but, you know, your major universities.
I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, they could definitely point you in the right direction, or again, they might do it themselves. But that's the main thing. And then I would start off with something easy, like a tomato plant or a pepper plant. You know, those are fairly easy. And then when you plant tomato plants, and I just happen to have one here. If you got a couple, what I tell people is that a tomato plant, you should plant it very, very deep. Okay, and this is one that I just took out of a cell, and I'm going to plant this one tomorrow. But I will tell people to pick off the bottom leaves, pick those off and throw them away.
Okay, why is that?
Because what you want to bury this plant all the way up to the neck, all the way. And what that does is that wherever this stem touches dirt, more roots will come out. So the more roots you have, the stronger your plant, the healthier your plant, and the more it will produce. So the deeper you put it in the ground, the more roots it will have. especially with the tomato plant. The deeper you go, the better. But you want to put it all the way up as far as you can get it. But you want to make sure that the leaves are not touching the ground, because then the plant will be more susceptible to disease. So you definitely do not want the leaves of the plant to touch the ground. But that's what I would suggest as far as tomato plants. Again, even this one, I might even take this one off too, but trust me, your plant will love you. So this plant is going to have about a foot of root in the ground. And trust me, you will be amazed of the benefit it will come by having that much roots in the ground. With a tomato plant.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it will grow. It will definitely grow. And I've seen people that, for example, if you don't stake the tomato plant and the tomato plant just falls because it's so heavy with fruit, if this touches the ground, you'll start to see roots just coming off the side of it. So you're doing the same thing, but you actually burn it in the ground. Okay. But that's a really good, helpful tip for tomatoes.
So tomatoes,
right, as deep as possible, and make sure the leaves do not touch the ground. Okay. And also, if you see any damaged leaves, any brown-looking leaves, any leaves with spots on them, take those off, because that shows that the plant is being stressed, and you don't want that to be passed to the other plants. Personally, some people say just put it in the compost pile. But me personally, if you put it in the compost pile, you might infect your compost pile. So I either put it in a burn pit or just put it in the trash bag.
Then don't need it. Okay. Two questions on that. So I want to back up to the soil first, and then ask you maybe what other good starter plants. So what if I want to really make sure my soil is rich? Whether or not I've tested it, what are you doing to enrich the soil?
Well, I would put a lot of organic material in. That's one thing. I would definitely make sure you pull up all your weeds, because your weeds are actually taking the nutrients out of the soil, taking it away from the plant. I would make sure that I mulch around the plant heavily, because you want to try to keep as much moisture in the ground. Many different types of techniques as far as mulching. Some people just put cardboard down. Just put down a layer of cardboard and then maybe put some mulch on top. And what that'll keep the moisture down, and it'll keep the weeds down too. Or you can use newspaper. Put down a layer of newspaper, a couple sheets of newspaper. But make sure you don't put newspaper that has any colored dyes in it. Just the black and white, the newspaper, put that down. But none of that real the advertisements, the gloss, right? Mm-hmm.
The coupons and
nothing like that, or just regular mulch, hardwood mulch. I would suggest. Some plants like a more acidy mulch that would be like blueberries or strawberries, but as far as the normal gardening, I would use a hardwood mulch, and mulch it good so the weeds don't come up. And it keeps everything nice and moist.
All right, awesome. So I just want to greet some of our people who are commenting in the chat. We have 757 user saying hello, and hello to Farmer D.
Hello.
Turn up the video speed, says Snoop Dogg's long lost child. All right, I guess I look like Snoop Dogg. That's right. And Rodney Harper says hello. Yes, hello. Thank you for joining in, guys. If you have questions, I guess everybody so far is just really learning and absorbing, but if you have questions, pour them in. So obviously it depends on the season, probably what you're planting, right?
Correct.
Start off with what you could plant right now for sure.
Well, actually in March, depends on when you live. I'm in Virginia, so we'll just talk about Virginia and then
we'll go from there. I'm in North Carolina, so I'm imagining northeast coast is probably going to be.
It's about close to the same. Yeah, March is when you start planting stuff outside, like cold weather crops, like greens. You could put your, actually late February, early March, you could put in your potatoes or your onions. Those can go in. But the problem now is that you really, because of global warming, you can put stuff in earlier. But what happens now, and it affected us about 2 weeks ago, it gets nice in February, then the plants thinks it's summertime. So my peach, my pear trees, my plum trees started to bloom. So they bloomed, it was looking good. And then 3 weeks later, we had this frost and killed off all the blooms. So it doesn't look like I'm going to get any fruit from my fruit trees this year because of the frost. So, that's just the nature of the environment we're living in today. But potatoes and onions go in early. Usually it's St. Patrick's Day is when the old timers used to plant the onions and potatoes in. And you could put your cold weather greens and stuff in too, like turnips, kales, collard greens, anything like that. And then after that, you can put in your beets and stuff too. But even now we had a little frost last night, but it wasn't a killing frost. So some of my potatoes, not sweet potatoes, white potatoes, they was probably up about 4 inches, 5 inches, but luckily they didn't get tapped. But 3 weeks ago when we had a frost, it got down to 27 degrees, I believe.
Wow.
I actually had some potatoes in my high tunnel, which is basically a greenhouse without an external source of heat. It didn't get frost inside, but it was so cold it actually knocked the tops of the potatoes off. But they'll grow back. But you just hate to see them up, 3 inches and then get knocked back. But now they're up about a foot. So,
if you're covering if you're mulching and covering like with cardboard, does that help insulate?
Yeah. Let me explain. I didn't explain it properly. You're mulching and covering it, but you're not covering the plant, just around the plant.
Just around the plant. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Now, if you're mulching with hardwood mulch, you put over top the plant where you would bury the seeds and stuff. Yes, but mostly what I'm talking about is mulching is around the plant.
Around the plant,
between the plant and down in the rows.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha. You can break it down simple for me.
Yeah, sorry for that.
I've heard sometimes where people, want to plan for the whole year. Are there any resources like where you can find out what grows in your area and what best time of the year to grow certain items, like maybe website?
Yeah, and again, in the summertime, May, after the frost, you can put everything in. Usually June. Yeah, June is when you want to put in your sweet potatoes because they're very sensitive. In sweet potatoes, that you put those in as a plant, as a vine started plant. So you want to make sure there's no risk of frost or doing that. But basically, after the last frost, and I think now you look at your nighttime temperatures is what you look at. You want to make sure your nighttime temperatures are 50 degrees and above. That's how you determine. But if it dips down into the 20s or into the mid to low 30s, that's where you run into a problem. Okay. Or you could use a row cover, or you could put your tomato plants out. But if you know it's going to get cold or it's going to be frost, you have to cover them with a bucket or so. But if you got 5 or 6 tomato plants, then that's easy. You take a 5-gallon bucket and cover them up. But if you plant 200 or 300 tomato plants, that's not, it doesn't make sense to do that.
Okay.
And any other plants too that you plant early. I mean, I could have had, cucumbers and squash planted a month ago because it was, 70 degrees. It was perfect. But when I got that frost, game over. And unlike potatoes, they're not coming back. Yeah, you have to start.
Looking at the nighttime temperatures will give you a lot more options as far as planting.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I look at, the nighttime temperature.
Nighttime temperatures. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Someone has a question here in the chat. Farmer, and then it was actually D from Soulful Vegan that was greeting us. All right. Farmer D.
How you doing, D? I know D.
Yeah.
She has she runs some really nice vegan events up and down the East Coast. So yes. Shout out to D. I think she had an event over the weekend down in Virginia Beach area, Hampton Roads, I think.
Yeah. This next question is actually something I was going to ask myself. The seeds. So Farmer D someone wants to know where I should get my seeds. How do I know what grows in my area?
First of all, my first question would be, what is your area?
Okay, yeah, that's a good place to start.
Yeah, that's kind of important. But I would say I personally prefer organic seeds from a reputable distributor. I don't buy any GMO seeds just because I prefer to do heirloom seeds, because what happens if you buy I'm trying to get to the point where I can reclaim and save my own seeds. So if you buy seeds that have been GMO'd or modified, you don't know what what the plant seeds are going to be later. For example, it could be mixed with anything. So you might plant those seeds, but it may not be what the parent came from. So I stay away from that. And, that's the source of, a lot of topics too, and not using genetically modified stuff or eating fruit that doesn't have any seeds. I mean, how do you replant something that doesn't have seeds? Me personally, I don't. If it doesn't have seeds, I ain't eating it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, generally that's a good. Yeah, should be concerned, right?
Yeah,
especially from a farmer's point of view.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's gotta have seeds.
Are there any? Have you noticed there are any seeds are hard to get that are organic and non-GMO?
Not really. I mean, there's a lot of good suppliers out there. I prefer not to advertise for suppliers because they're not paying me yet. So if you want me to be a advocate of some of you large seed distributors, you need to contact Farmer D.
You got a voice of the channel, man.
Right? So yeah. If you want me to start promoting you, you need to contact me and send me some samples and send me some good organic heirloom seeds. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you talk a lot of times about supporting local farmers, right? The importance of that.
Well, that's where most of your food comes from. I mean, you need to know where your food comes from. It's just common sense, more so now than ever. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. I mean, when you start getting rid of agencies that are actually monitoring the health of our foods, then that tells you that you soon will not have no idea where it comes from or the standards or the farming practices that they have used. We could be getting stuff that have used human waste as fertilizer. They actually use human waste to grow some hay and stuff. And in some areas, it might be okay to use human waste to grow your vegetables. You really got to watch.
I go as far as saying that the health of our community is equal to the health of our local farmers, right? The work of health, local farmers.
Yeah, your health is your wealth, like everybody says. And I tell a lot of people, that obviously I'm more fortunate or make more money than I do, but I notice that their eating habits are terrible. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, how much money do you want to make to leave to somebody else? But because of your lifestyle and your eating habits, you're not going to be able to enjoy all this wealth you have accumulated.
Exactly.
But that's their choice. But I try to coach people and try to lead them in the right direction, just like you, as far as curing people from having diabetes. But it is curable. It is, and it all stems for our diet. Whether you want to be a vegetarian or vegan or alkaline based, you have to determine, your quality of life is what it boils down to.
We do have a question, but before I address the question, can you tell us if I really want to make sure my local farmers are thriving? You have any things that we as a community can do to support our local farmers?
Well, find out, first of all, contact them, find out where they sell their produce. Some of them may have farmers markets, some of them may have produce stands, at their farm or down their road, or they could be wholesale distributors or some smaller, outlets and stores. You could probably go to, depending on what state you're in, there might be a directory of the farmers in your area. I know Virginia has a directory that they just printed out. And just last week, they printed out 300,000 copies, and they mailed them through 5 different counties. I think it was Culpeper, Orange, Fauquier County, Madison, and Rappahannock County. Okay. And they sent that out, and it has many of the local farmers in it. And I think you have a copy of that, Lewis.
Yeah, we can share that actually. And so Sonia actually has a question. She wants to know, Farmer D, if you set up and sell at farmers markets yourself?
I don't, because I have a couple wholesale distributors that I've sold to. Okay. I'm just so busy doing a million other things right now. I don't. Okay. But I do some small events because of D has a couple of vegan events we have been doing.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I just have so much other things on my plate that I don't.
I think this is the article, right?
Yes, buy fresh, buy local.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this kind of shows you at the front page right there, my man, Farmer D.
Yeah, well, they selected me, and I was really surprised.
Yeah.
And honored for that. That came out, I think, a week or so ago, and it's because I practice what I preach. I believe in supporting local farmers. I believe in the need for local farmers. Because you need to know where your food comes from. And of course, Lewis will give you guys a link to that. But, and know your farmer, because your local farmers actually invest in the community versus some of these large farmers that, are could be, could be in New York, or they could be in Ohio. They're not going to invest in your community. Mm-hmm. So, in order to keep them moving in the direction, we need your help to support the local farmers. And also, being involved in your county. I know people are involved in the national elections, but the ones that really affect you all day, every day is your local ones. Your board of supervisors, your planning commissions. You need to be involved. Because they probably, a lot of places are trying to put in large subdivisions or even data centers. But when they're putting in large subdivisions, 200, 300, 400 houses at a time, what are they targeting? They're targeting farmers. Right, yeah. So now you're going to have less availability to get local farms. The same thing with data centers. The same thing. That they're targeting local farmers. So that's what I would be involved in your local chamber of commerce as well, and get to know your officials, because those are the ones that are affecting you all day, every day.
Every day, yeah. I never thought of that. Good stuff. Roger Williams says Buy Fresh, Buy Local is actually published in many states, listing local producers. So that let's guys look at. I think the website they actually have. Let me share that too. Is here. buyfreshbuylocal.org. So you guys, you want to look that up, you could find local farmers near you. So look that up for sure. Buy Fresh, Buy Local. Let me go ahead and put it in the chat so anyone watching can even just click on it right there. Mm-hmm. So while we're showing that, let's go ahead and show off your website and your product, man. Black garlic. Something I've tried and tested, and it's good. Really good stuff. I think a lot of people don't know about, and they need to. But this is, let me see, Farmer D's farm right here. Doing amazing work here, man. Talk to us about your product.
Yeah, well, thank you. This is a product that we grow. We grow all the garlics ourselves. We age black garlic. For those of you who don't know about black garlic, go to my website, www.farmer-d.com. And it tells you all the health benefits as far as the black garlic, and it tells you all the characteristics of black garlic. It's aged. It takes many months to age it. It's no longer going to be strong like garlic that you're used to. You're no longer going to have that strong, pungent taste or coming out of the pores of your skin. It's going to be soft, and it's going to be sweet like a date or a fig. And I'm pulling a piece apart for you right now, but it is truly black in color, and it's real sticky too. I didn't bring a napkin, but for those who you can see, Lewis, there you go. It's really sticky. This is it, and it comes right out of the bulb once we age it. And I'm going to eat some on camera, and I'm going to lick my fingers because it's just that good.
It does look delicious, man.
It is. Trust me, it is.
But like garlic is not supposed to be black. Farmer D.
but it's sweet like a date or fig, and you use it the same way you would do any other garlic or any other herb. So I use it in cooking, or I eat it just like this because it is so nice and sweet. But the health benefits, it helps you with your diabetes, your high blood pressure, hypertension. But and again, I eat it in the morning like a vitamin. We sell it in the small containers, the single serving, and again, it has about 7 or 8 cloves in there. And me personally, I eat a clove, not a whole bowl, but just a clove in the morning like a vitamin. But we also sell.
Sorry to cut you off. Someone actually corrected me on your website, and I guess we're so caught up in our conversation, we didn't notice that I put the wrong website up.
Oh, well, that's okay. It's a site. It's www.farmer.d.com. There you go. I see it now. Thank you, Lewis.
Let's do the right one. Yeah,
that's good.
That's supposed to be actually show you the people what it looks like there, but
but I also sell the chef packages too.
Yeah. So that's what it's going to look like when it pops up on the screen.
Right. Thank you, Lewis. But yeah, we also sell chef packages. So we sell a lot to restaurants and chefs. They buy larger quantities, and this chef package is 1 pound, 1 ounce. 1 pound, 2 ounces. I'm sorry. But that's the way we normally try to sell it to ship, because it doesn't make sense to just send one.
Yeah.
We're going to run a special offer tonight because we're basically at the end of the season and we're almost out, but I have a few more chef packages left. I have 2 for the first 2 people who contact me. You go to my you can email me directly at don@farmer-d.com. That's don@farmer-d.com. And we'll ship anywhere in the United States. One fee will do $59 for this. Plus, you get a shirt. You get a choice of
a shirt.
Yeah, you get a shirt. And this one says, "Black is beautiful."
Love it.
Logo and all. And you don't have to call me, email me, and let me know what size. Okay. Or you can do this one. It's a different one. It says, "The blacker the garlic, the sweeter the taste." And I'm gonna just leave it just like that.
Okay, I love it. All right.
So yeah, so I have 2 self packages. So the first 2 people that contact me will get that shipped in the mail.
Yeah. And this is good stuff for your health. I mean, we had a conversation with somebody at the last Wellness Expo at Howard University, where a woman was talking about her blood pressure improving using just something simple like in your black garlic. So yeah, there's so many other health benefits, but it just helps to know that it tastes good, as well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. I mean, the people that I give samples to, they ask me, what do I add to it? I'm like, I don't add anything. They say, but it's sweet though. What do you make? No, it's just, it's the technique that we use to age it, and that's the difference. And I'll show you. I just pulled this garlic out this today. And this is just fresh garlic. You won't see this in the store because people normally don't pull garlic out of the ground like this. But I wanted to show the viewers what it looks like. It basically looks just like an onion. Okay. But the benefit of this is that you get the garlic flavor, but it's not going to be really, really strong like a garlic until it matures, because later it'll bulb up. It'll get bulb up. But you can actually take this and cut it and add it to your dishes just like you would do a leek or a spring onion. But again, it's just the benefits. It's just another way of having garlic. But garlic has many different benefits, and you can use it many different ways. It's flexibility. But again, my website has 20 different recipes to choose from. One of them is black chocolate chip cookies with black garlic. Another stir fry with black garlic. But go to the website and you'll see a variety of choices. Or email me or send me some photos when you make a dish with it. I would love for that. And on my website, if you go to the bottom, you'll be able to see our link to Instagram as well as Facebook.
That's it. So scan the QR code, look at the website, check the comment section. We posted it there. Good stuff, my man. Thank you so much for sharing. So if I have any follow-up questions, I know people might, who are watching this, might have more follow-up questions. I'll shoot them to you. But I'm sure you're also open to questions if people, want to email you and ask questions.
Yeah, Email me, Don at farmer-d.com. I'd like to bring a special guest, Lewis, if you don't mind, next time with me.
Yeah, let's do it.
This person, she uses a lot of Farmer D's organic vegetables in her making vitamins. So it's really unique, and I really like her product. But we're not going to tell the viewers who this person is, but we'll make them go to your site. And on that site, you'll put a link to who this person is. That'll be our special guest next time.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So, we have these lives every Monday at 7 p.m. If you're not following, wherever you're watching right now, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can get updates, and we'll let you know when next time Farmer D is on with a special guest. Okay. So we always like having you on, man. We love it. We love your product. You're doing great work out there. I want to encourage you to, I know it's hard for sure. Sometimes maybe it doesn't feel rewarding, but you're changing lives, man.
Thank you. I appreciate. Well, it was rewarding when I had a customer come up to me at the last event and said she was so happy to see me there, and the product that she purchased from me actually made a difference. So, for me to hear that makes me get up early in the morning. Makes me, because I'm adding quality of life to someone, and for that reason and that reason only, it's worth it. We have to help each other in this environment, especially more so now than ever, especially with our food. It disturbs me that in some areas we have food deserts. I mean, how is that possible? And we have some of these food deserts actually in the country. I'm like, there's land everywhere. You could plant your cucumber, you could plant a squash plant. How is it possible that people don't have access to fresh vegetables? It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
But we just each one teach one.
That's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And so a special thank you to everyone watching tonight, all of our guests. Thank you for your comments and questions. Right. And as I always close off, beloved, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. We'll be seeing you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Farmer D's, Culper, Virginia.